මැටකෑ. අද අලිමිනිස් ගැටුමට මැදි වූ. එදා සිට අද දක්වා පානීය ජල ගැටලුවෙන් පීඩා විඳිනා. මහවිලච්චය නෙළුම්විල ගම්වැසියන් සඳහා පිරිසිදු පානීය ජල පෙරණ පද්ධතියක් ලබා දීමට ගම්මැද්ද මුලපිරු වගයි.
Very good evening and welcome to Primetime News here on TV1. You're joining me, David Paldano. Now, before we head into your stories in more detail, let's first take a look at your headlines this evening.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
A shooting in Maradana. A robbery at a jewelry store. 8,000 chickens killed in a fire at a poultry farm in Dulapitia. Can't the trade minister control the rising price of goods? Will Sri Lanka face famine in the future? Hemakumara Nanakara responds.
මිනිස්සුන්ට අඩුවට කන්න ඉතුරු වෙලා තියෙන්නේ තනකොළ විතරයි. තනකොළ දෙන්න ඕන මේ රටේ පාලකයන්ට පුනක්කු බාලියක් එක්ක.
Government responds to the controversial Yugadanavi deal.
ගිවිසුමේ මොනවද තියෙන්න ඕනේ දේවල් කියලා හොයන්න අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක තමයි විශ්වාසය.
US imposes sanctions on 2 former Sri Lankan military officials. Case on Priyanda Kumara killing to be heard daily in Pakistan's court.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company. Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Now, taking a look at one of your headline-making stories, a robbery had taken place at a jewelry store along Maradana Road in Borella.
Crime Watch.
2 people armed with weapons who arrived on the motorcycle had carried out the robbery at a jewelry store at the Borella junction. The robbery had taken place at around 2:50 this afternoon. The robbers had fired gunshots into the sky and then robbed the jewelry store. Security camera footage captured how the robbers had fled. The value of the stolen jewellery has not been estimated. The Borella Police, the Colombo South Crimes Branch and the Colombo Crimes Division has launched an operation to arrest the suspects.
Crime Watch.
A fire had broken out at a poultry farm and a warehouse in Waragala in Dulia. Our correspondent reported that more than 8,000 chickens had died in the fire.
The Gampaha Fire Service Department said the fire had broken out around 10 in the morning today. It had dispatched 3 fire trucks from Gampaha and 2 fire trucks from Negombo to douse the fire. Workers at the farm had taken steps to douse the fire and save the remaining chickens. An electric leak is suspected to have caused the fire.
The worldwide spiritual leader of the Bora community, His Holiness Sayyidya Mufaddal Saifuddin Sahib, called on President Gotabaya Rajapaksa at the President's private residence in Mirihana this morning.
Saifuddin Sahib said he was pleased with Sri Lanka as a country that he loved so much, adding that he would continue to visit Sri Lanka with his followers. The presidential media division stated that spiritual leader of the Bora community, Saifuddin Sahib, who commended the government's efforts to tackle the COVID-19 pandemic, also emphasized that he hoped for the development of Sri Lanka. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa thanked the Bora community leader for his contribution to the COVID-19 Itukama Fund and also appreciated the contribution of the Bora community to the Sri Lankan economy through investment and trade.
The Ministry of Power says power cuts may be experienced in some parts of the country. This is because one of the generators at the Norochole power plant had shut down. A controversy has arisen over a deal to sell 40% of shares of the Yugadanavi power plant at a cost of $250 million. What was the company that signed this agreement? Who was behind this deal? And how was cabinet approval granted?
Do you remember? A revelation in Parliament on the Yugadanavi deal signed at midnight on the 19th of September. Several constituent parties in the government oppose the deal. Some entities go to court against the agreement. Ceylon Electricity Board trade unions launch strike. Requests mount in and outside Parliament to table the agreement. What is the New Fortress Agreement? The agreement involves selling a 40% stake of the Yugadanavi power plant in Keravalapitia to a US company named New Fortress Energy for $250 million. The power plant produces 300 megawatts of electricity. The agreement had been signed on the 17th of September between Finance Secretary S.R. Atigala and Daniel Christopher Knight, the Managing Director of NFE Sri Lanka Power Holdings LLC. The agreement was not tabled in Parliament, although opposition parliamentarians had repeatedly made requests to that effect.
I wish to table this agreement that has been signed by the Finance Minister and the Finance Minister's Secretary secretly without revealing it to the people, the Parliament or the Cabinet.
Minister Vimal Veeravansa said the agreement has already been submitted to the Cabinet.
It was submitted to the Cabinet 2 weeks ago. The matter was dragged for some time when it was discussed in the Cabinet. There is some work to be done on this. Based on how our country operates, it's no surprise that it will reach the hands of someone after it is tabled in the Cabinet. We raised that question in the Cabinet meeting. We have submitted those questions in writing to the Cabinet as well, but the discussions haven't ended.
Chief Government Whip Johnston Fernando expressed the following views on the agreement after the budget was passed in Parliament yesterday.
There is an agreement. It has been approved by the Cabinet. The Cabinet has approved to sign the agreement. Once that's done, as a minister, I don't have to go and inquire into the contents of this agreement. We have faith in it. When the Cabinet grants approval for an agreement to be signed with the Attorney General's approval, I don't believe we have to read the entirety of it.
The CEB Engineers Union says that the agreement was signed without the knowledge of the Cabinet.
The details in the Cabinet paper were different. What is here is different. This wasn't tabled in the Cabinet. I feel no one knows about this yet.
What is the agreement that has been signed? The agreement says the sale of shares from West Coast Power Private Limited that owns the Yugadanavi power plant won't be limited to 40%. The agreement had been signed on the 17th of September between Finance Secretary S.R. Artigala and Daniel Christopher Knight, the Managing Director of NFE Sri Lanka Power Holdings LLC.
The agreement says that an entity called LNG Gas Company must be formed. This company would be acquired by the New Fortress Company. The deal on that must be signed in the future. Under stage 2 of releasing the money, New Fortress must be declared as the authority to supply LNG to all power plants in Sri Lanka. That is when they will give us $63 million.
What is the company that has signed this serious deal? According to the agreement, NFE Sri Lanka Power Holdings LLC has been registered at 1209 Orange Street, Wilmington, Delaware. This is the location of the company as shown on Google Maps. Public documents show that the company is a subsidiary of New Fortress Energy, who are the shareholders of NFE Sri Lanka Power Holdings LLC.
Our chairman has signed this as a witness. An additional secretary at the ministry has also signed this as a witness.
Who is behind these moves to establish a monopoly in Sri Lanka's LNG sector under the guise of investing in 40% shares of the power plant?
This is a betrayal to the country. They can't hide an agreement that was signed without the knowledge of the Attorney General and without complying with the Constitution. If the decision was made in the cabinet, I wish to responsibly say that everyone in the cabinet has betrayed the future generations of the country. I am telling this for a reason. Everyone knows that I even lost my ministerial portfolio when I opposed wrong decisions like this. No one has the right to handle matters regarding the energy sector by deceiving the people and misleading them. The President must conduct an immediate investigation into this. If anyone has done something wrong, I wish to say that they must be punished regardless of their status.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa expressed views on the Yugadanavi deal. The people of this country gave them the mandate. They received this mandate to protect the country. The government that came into power with the people's mandate is violating the sovereignty of our country. This government has placed the country's power section in jeopardy by selling shares of the Yugadanavi power plant secretly by lying to the cabinet and misleading the ministers. I wish to tell those companies and entities to avoid entering into agreements with this government that is selling off and auctioning national assets. I wish to promise the people that we will rectify this situation under a Samagi Janabalawege government.
As talks are underway to sell shares of an LNG power plant to a US company, the US has announced sanctions on 2 Sri Lankan military officials for human rights violations. The 2 Sri Lankan military officials were among 12 foreigners on whom the US Department of State had imposed sanctions in line with the Human Rights Day. Sanctions have been imposed on them based on information that they are involved in serious human rights violations or significant acts of corruption. The US Department of State said they would not be eligible to enter the US after the names of them and their family members are published. The sanctions have been imposed on Lieutenant Commander Chandan Hettiarachchi and the Army's former Staff Sergeant Sunil Ratnayaka. The US Department of State noted that sanctions have also been imposed on some military officials from Uganda, China, Belarus, Bangladesh and Mexico.
The committee appointed by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to inquire into the recent gas explosions is to submit its final report on Tuesday. A committee member told Newsfirst that the report has been completed. Several gas explosions were reported yesterday as well.
A gas stove exploded at a house in Hawa Elia Norelia last night. A gas cooker had exploded at a house in Ihala Karagahamuna Kadavata last night. The ceiling of the kitchen was damaged. Gas explosions were reported from Bataklo, Ampara and Balangoda as well. State Minister of Consumer Protection Lasantha Alagiyawana said he will receive a report tomorrow on explosions involving gas cylinders that were issued to the market with a new seal.
The problems of farmers have worsened because of liquid fertilizer can explosions and health issues arising from it. Farmers of the Mahavila village in Girandrukote claim the liquid fertilizer plastic cans given to them by the Department of Agrarian Services have swollen profusely. They claim that the lids of several cans have burst open because of the pressure inside. $395-litre cans and 13 2-litre cans are to be distributed among farmers tomorrow. Farmers allege that fertilizer cans are releasing a strong odour and some have overflown. The swollen lids are bursting open. The lids of about 30 cans have burst open. The odour from this is stronger than the one from organic fertilizer distributed during the previous cultivation season. A person who is to die in a year will die in 2 days soon after touching this. There is no one to provide medical care. It is the farmer who will be affected by this. We accepted these cans from the government, assuming that they are up to a certain standard. But it smells like waste. This is more dangerous than a gas cylinder. Who will be responsible for the well-being of the person carrying this and spraying it? It is much better to spray the waste to the toilets in our homes. We have provided fertilizer for 800,000 farmers. This is for 800,000 hectares. Out of this 800,000, 3 or 4 cans of fertilizer have exploded. This has been manufactured using natural microorganisms. They are made using fish tonic that contains a large amount of nitrogen. There is nothing wrong with that. We will look into the explosions, but it is not fair to criticize the authorities based on just 4 incidents of explosions when 800,000 farmers were given fertilizer. Farmers of Kinigama in Bandarawala claim that the harvest of their potato cultivations have been affected as a result of the shortage of fertilizer. They say that the harvest reaped this time is not sufficient. Look at the state of this potato tuber. It has only one potato. Look at this. How will we cultivate our crops? If we continue to cultivate like this without a proper plan, the people of the country won't have any food. We will have to import potatoes at 1,500 rupees a kilogram. In the end, vegetables will be imported to this country from Malaysia. If something like that is happening, the government must tell the farmers to abandon these lands.
We hope to
provide rice at a price below 100 rupees to the people in line with this festive season. A kilogram of Nadu rice will be sold at 99 rupees and 50 cents at all Satosa outlets in the country. A kilogram of quality samba priced at 130 rupees will also be available in Satosa outlets. 5 kilograms of any variety of rice can be brought at Satosa outlets island-wide. A kilogram of sugar can be brought at 125 rupees. A kilogram of dal will be sold at 240 rupees. A packet of noodles will be 125 rupees. The prices of 50 other goods including soap will be reduced significantly. No, the local farmers didn't sell it to us. They were imported. We will continue to import them as well. I take the responsibility to sell rice at a price below 100 rupees to the public. The cost of food, including vegetables, have increased in many parts of the country. This was the situation in several areas.
ලීස් කිලෝ එක 360ක් වෙනවා සිල්ලර කැරට් කිලෝ එක 400යි බොන්චි කිලෝ එක 400යි එළවලු මිල 4 වාගේ තමයි තියෙන්නේ වෙනදා එළවලු කාපු මිනිස්සු දැන් ඔය කිරියොද්දක් හදාගෙන එළවලු 100ක් විතර ගන්න ගිහිල්ලා එහෙම කලොමඩ කනවා එහෙම කාලයක් තමයි මේ ආවේ පිපිඤ්ඤ ගෙඩියක් වුණත් දෙකට කපලා යන්න පුළුවන් නෑ එහෙම ආලා යනවා වැඩි එක පිපිඤ්ඤ ගෙඩියක් මේ බලන්සර් දැම්මාම රුපියල් 100 110 120 වෙනවා ඉතින් ඒක ලොකු මිලක් මිනිස්සුම දරා ගන්න බැරි.
Traders at the New Aurelia Economic Centre said they didn't receive at least 20% of the vegetables they used to receive daily. They point out that the supply has dropped because of the shortage of fertilizer and agrochemicals.
මේ දෙපාරක් තුන් පාරක් දැන් කැරකුණා මේ එළවලු ගන්න කියලා 250ක් 100යි 120යි අපි කොහොමද ජීවත් වෙන්නේ
නෑ නෑ රුපියල් 10 මාරු කර මේ වර්ග කීයද
ගණන් බල බල යනවා ඉතින් ගන්න විදියක් නෑනේ
හම්බෙන පඩිය මදි ජීවත් වෙන්න
Former Minister of Agriculture and an expert on agriculture, Dr. Hemakumara Nanayakara, explained the immediate solutions that can be introduced to solve the food shortage in the country.
මිනිස්සුන්ගේ ජීවන බර දරුණු විදිහට වැඩි වෙලා තිබෙනවා.
The cost of living incurred by the people has increased dangerously as a result of the rising cost of goods. By yesterday, a kilogram of butter beans was sold at 1,000 rupees. A kilogram of tomatoes is 550 rupees. A bundle of kankun leaves that was at 20 rupees is 70 rupees now. The people have suffered as a result of this. They are barely surviving when it comes to managing to have one meal. Is there a solution to this problem? Yes, there is a solution to this. This ridiculous government has ignored the agro-scientists and the agriculture ministry completely. The production of seeds and plants by the Department of Agriculture must be increased immediately. As of now, the seed and plant must be imported to the country. Fertilizer must be imported as well. The areas that cultivate fruits and vegetables on a large scale must be given concessions immediately. The production in those areas must be increased after giving them seeds, fertilizer and agrochemicals. That is the only solution. The only thing that is sold at a low price is grass. Grass should not be given to the public. It must be fed to the rulers of this country.
තනකොළ දෙන්න ඕන ජනතාවට නෙමෙයි. තනකොළ දෙන්න ඕන මේ රටේ පාලකයන්ට පුනක්කුබාලි.
Views were expressed today regarding the country's education reforms.
ඒ ජනාධිපතිතුමා අත දාපු හැම එකක්ම විනාශ වෙලා තියෙනවා. සෞඛ්‍ය විනාශ වෙලා, ඒ කෘෂිකර්මය විනාශ වෙලා.
Everything that the president lays his finger has eventually been ruined. The health sector is ruined and so is the agriculture sector. We would like to ask the president if he is planning on ruining the education sector as well. The president has appointed a task force on free education. Is the president planning to stop free education by making decisions the way he wants? Based on the comments made by the president during a recent event organized by the Kothalawal Defence University, we believe that he is planning to entrust the armed commander with the education sector. During their term, as of today, 2 sectors in the country have been destroyed. This includes the health sector and the agriculture sector. We would like to tell the president to refrain from doing the same to the education sector as well.
අධ්‍යාපනයටත් මේ තත්ත්වය ඇති කරන්න එපා කියන එක අපි ජනාධිපතිතුමාට කියනවා.
Police say the fishing vessel transporting 250 kilograms of heroin seized by the Navy in the high seas of the southern coast of Sri Lanka belongs to Iran.
The vessel was seized during a joint operation conducted by the Sri Lanka Navy and the Police Narcotics Bureau based on intelligence information received by the Navy. The fishing vessel was located around 900 nautical miles off the coast of Sri Lanka. 6 foreign nationals aboard the vessel and 225 packets of heroin were taken into custody during the operation. The suspects were identified as Pakistani and Iranian nationals. The value of the stock of heroin has not been assessed yet. According to the police, the recovered fishing vessel will be brought to the shores within the next 2 days.
Now on to a COVID-19 update. The health sector has decided to administer the COVID-19 booster jab to those above the age of 20 as well.
When will those over 20 years receive the booster jab?
Based on the recommendations of the Advisory Committee on Infectious Diseases, we have decided to administer the booster for those above 20 years as well. The Director General of Health Services will issue the guidelines regarding this soon. Thereafter, the booster jab will be given. Be patient.
How will the first dose be administered to those between 12 to 15 years?
The Advisory Committee on Infectious Diseases has recommended that children between 12 to 15 years can receive 1 dose of the vaccine. Recommendations have also been made to administer the second dose to those between 16 to 19. The Health and Education Ministries will discuss this and prepare the relevant guidelines and inform the people about this.
Meanwhile, those above the age of 30 were administered the booster jab today.
This vaccination center and a few others is being managed by the Sri Lanka Army, and if you are someone above the age of 30 and if you have completed 3 months after receiving the second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, you can come to one of these vaccination centers, not cause a rush, abide by simple health guidelines and maintain social distance and receive your booster dose. I'm Sanita Senanayaka reporting for News First.
The trial of suspects in the case over the killing of Sri Lankan Priyantha Kumara by a mob in Sialkot will be held daily.
This decision was made during a meeting of the Punjab Cabinet Committee on Law and Order. The committee directed police investigators to file the case in court within 2 weeks. Law Minister Mohammad Basharat Raja, who chaired the meeting, had instructed the prosecution department to set up a special cell to monitor the case trial. A special prosecution team from Lahore has met Sialkot police officials over the killing of Sri Lankan Priyantha Kumara by a mob last week. The team visited Rajco Industries, at which Priyantha Kumara was employed, and inspected the factory site. The police will provide the prosecution with 12-hour CCTV footage of the incident obtained from more than 100 cameras. The police have so far arrested 139 people, of which 34 are main suspects.
The Board of Investments chairman has requested the President to appoint a new leadership team to the agency. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had recently refused to accept the resignation letters of the BOI chairman and the directors.
The Board of Investment says its chairman Sanjay Mohatala has reiterated his desire to step down from his position. This was during a meeting with President Gotabaya Rajapaksa this week. He had requested for a new leadership team to be appointed to the BOI to achieve the government's target of doubling the economic growth in a decade. The Board of Investments chairman and directors had announced their resignation on the 2nd of December. But President Secretary P.B. Jayasundara had later informed them in writing that the President wishes for them to continue their services.
The grand finale of The Voice Sri Lanka, that aims at unearthing Sri Lankan singing talent, is underway. Newsfirst Naveksha Gunasekara joins us from Stein Studios in Ratmalana, where the finals are taking place.
The Voice Sri Lanka grand finale.
Over the years, Sirasa TV has been revolutionizing the art of reality television in Sri Lanka, and tonight is going to be yet another night where we create history. The grand finale of Voice Sri Lanka is currently on stage. We kicked off at 7:30 p.m. today from the Stein Studios in Ratmalana, where 4 contestants, 4 extremely talented individuals representing Team BNS, Team Umaria, Team Kasun and Team Shashika are competing to be the voice of Sri Lanka. It's extremely going to be definitely a global experience here on a local stage. So stay tuned as we bring you the latest. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Naveksha Gunasekara.
The Voice Sri Lanka grand finale.
Angelo M. Patrick, a group director of the Capital Maharaja Group, launched his book Impressions, a debut publication into the vast universe of prose and poetry, synchronized with his travels to idyllic destinations.
Mr. Patrick began documenting his impressions through prose in 2006, much imbued by nature and lifestyles of folk, both rural and urban. Mr. Patrick's wanderlust has enabled him to witness the diversity of our world, both its landscape and its people.
I was beginning to see the world in a very delightful manner, and I knew possibly the way I was seeing it was possibly different from what others may have been seeing it. Those innermost foundations which I had used to rekindle once in a way, and I used to go back to the worlds of John Keats and Longfellow and Wordsworth and read them all again and write a few lines here and there, nothing serious, only to ball it up and put it in the rubbish bin. This is the story of my rebirth. I know I'm in the evening of my life, but I will jolly well keep writing into the night of my life.
The event today was presided over by the chairman of the Capital Maharaja Group, Shashi Raja Mahendran. Following the launch of the book, Mr. Shashi Raja Mahendran addressed the gathering.
I know beneath this gruff exterior and extremely loud voice lies a kind, caring, empathetic soul, which certainly shows up in your writings. You got up here and you asked, "Who am I?" Reading your work, you are so much, much more. Reading through his collection, I was amazed at the breadth of Angelo's interest in the simple things of nature. When I read your writings, I do believe that you are sharing the wisdom of your soul with the world. And as the soul is where love lives, you are sending your love out to the world through your writing.
Members of the Board of Directors of CMG, family, friends and well-wishers were present at the event today. Bishop of Chilao and Kandy of the Catholic Church, His Lordship Right Reverend Dr. Valence Mendes, graced the occasion.
Angela has been a very dear friend, a man of many parts, I would say, a very talented person. What is written is a treasure, is a gift for the future, and you become a legacy once you start writing.
Mr. Angelo Patrick's son, Mr. Sohan Patrick, delivered the vote of thanks.
And why this book is special to me is because, I'm a huge fan of Sri Lanka, this blessed nation that we were born into. I truly believe that Sri Lanka can and Sri Lanka will one day prevail. Someone told me that he feels that God first made Sri Lanka, took it as a blueprint to create the rest of the world.
Now on to international news. The governor of the US state of Kentucky has warned that more than 50 people are thought to have been killed by tornadoes overnight. He says the figure could rise to as many as 100 in what he called the worst tornadoes in the state's history.
More than 100 people were inside a candle factory in Mayfield, Kentucky when the tornado hit. The tornadoes were among a multitude that spawned in the overnight hours yesterday as a line of powerful storms ripped through the central US. A state of emergency has been announced in Kentucky.
And finally on to your sports news, 18-year-old Muay Thai fighter Kasun Gunawardena has won bronze at the International Muay Thai Championship.
The 2021 International Federation of Muay Thai Associations Youth and Senior World Championships is being held in Thailand. On the 25th of October, Newsfirst reported the story of 18-year-old Sri Lankan Muay Thai fighter Kasun Gunawardena hailing from Pallebovila Secondary School in Kandy. Kasun managed to clinch the bronze medal under 48 kilogram weight category after defeating an Indian fighter in the quarterfinals. He is to arrive at the Bandaranaike International Airport tomorrow.
The winner is blue.
Hana Halakma from Sri Lanka.
And with that, we wrap up primetime news here on TV1. For more news, log on to our award-winning website, that is www.newsfirst.lk. For the Newsfirst team, I'm David Paldano, along with the sign interpreter for tonight, Taraka Gabriel. Take care and good night.